Hello and welcome to RetroSpectives, a video game history and review. And welcome to The Lever, your one-stop shop to learning to be like the big leagues by leveraging your IP as much as possible, with me, Sterling Gamer. You just made it big with some sort of mascot platform. It doesn't matter if it's 2D or 3D. What you need is to leverage it. You need to ride the success. What you need is a racer. All the big kids are doing it. Mario, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, Rayman, and even kinda Donkey Kong. It's a proven tactic that making a simple by-the-numbers racer using your cast of characters will prove wonders for your wallets. But you just had to mess it up, didn't you? Racing games were crazy common back in the day. It seemed that every mascot platformer had a racing game, at least the successful ones. Even non-platformers had racers, like Final Fantasy. But it seemed eventually that one company would try to stray away from the norm, make like an especially good one, not like a basic kart racer, but like something special. We didn't really expect Kirby to do that though. Kirby is the protagonist of a long-running platformer series of the same name. It's developed by HAL Laboratories and published by Nintendo. Now, I would excuse you for thinking that Kirby was a Nintendo creation, since he's seen so often alongside Nintendo's greats. But no. This thing was created by Masahiro Sakurai at age 19. You know Masahiro Sakurai, great video game visionary, creator of Super Smash Bros., quit HAL and made Meteos. Yes, in 2003, he left HAL Laboratories and became a freelancer for a few years before making his own company. He's returned for every single Smash Bros. Game up to this point, but Kirby's been left to rot. Thankfully, it appears that Kirby is getting a new resurgence thanks to the release of the Forgotten Lands. Before all that, the last game that he worked on for Kirby was Kirby in the Amazing Mirror. Wow, that's underwhelming. Before that was Kirby's Air Ride, the racing game. The game is split into 3 separate modes, all playable with up to 3 friends. If I had any. Thankfully, computers will suffice. The first mode is Air Ride, which is pretty much the basic racing mode. You have 8 tracks with 1 unlockable one, all playable with many different machines. These are your vehicles, most of which float in the air. You start with only the basic Warp Star, but unlock more over time. These each change the gameplay drastically in many fascinating ways, seeing as there's only one button. You can move, and you have one action button. Most of the time, this will make you do a charge technique, which slows you down, makes it so you can turn easier, and gives you a burst of speed depending on how long you use it, signified by this gauge. Thing is, if you press the button near an enemy, it'll eat them, and certain enemies will give you their power as a copy ability, which are this game's items. Thing is, they're not that useful. They all either just change your movement for a little bit, or give you a temporary attack. Anyway, the changes that these machines can give are crazy, honestly. Like, one makes you go very fast, but you can't steer unless you're charging. But when you charge, you go to a dead stop. Another is slow, but has incredible gliding capabilities, making it so you can fly over the majority of some tracks. Each machine takes a while to get used to, but they vary the gameplay so much that it makes up for the lack of tracks. The large amount of varying is fun, but it makes the learning curve kind of steep. It took me quite a while to really get the grasp on everything. Learning the tracks, learning their shortcuts, learning when to charge. The fact that you unlock each of the machines one by one over time does help a bit, and we'll cover that more in a minute. First, we need to cover the other 2 modes, the second one being Top Ride. You have very short tracks seen from an overhead perspective, and the gameplay resembles Air Ride, but there are a few very major changes. For example, there are only 2 machines. They are the exact same in every way, except for how they control. This mode puts more of a focus on the stuff that Air Ride does not: combat and very tight, reliable controls. Let me explain. Instead of trying to find the best machine and the most shortcuts, the racing part will be entirely dominated by control and skill. That's it. It's just the most skillful player will make it through the fastest. If it wasn't for the second part of this. In Air Ride, you can attack your opponent by using an item or a spin attack done by giving your control stick a stroke. But it's not that useful. It's very hard to hit an attack, and it almost does nothing. Sometimes it can actually speed your opponent up. But in Top Ride, it becomes your key to victory. Every single attack is much more deadly, stopping your victims in their tracks. Oddly enough, every single item is completely different in this mode. But they're not bad at all. It's actually much better than the copy abilities. You can have the best round ever, going way past your opponent, and then get hit by multiple items in a row and come in dead last. That's just how this rolls. This mode is endearing and very fun, and it feels like it could be its own entire game if it was fleshed out more. But this sentiment is even more true of our final mode, City Trial. Where do I begin? You and your adversaries are dropped off on a decently sized map, on a machine that is unique to this mode. It's pretty much just the well-rounded Warp Star, but with worse stats. And you're given one instruction: go. You are free to do whatever you want for 5 minutes. You can explore, you can find stat boosts, you can look for pieces to super machines, or you could do literally nothing. Around the map are a bunch of stat boosts and stat anti-boosts, as well as a bunch of machines scattered around. Your goal is to make the best setup that you can for a minigame that plays at the end of the round. It could be something that one machine just objectively wins at, for example, high jump. It could be something that's more well-rounded, for example, Kirby Brawl. Or it could be a straight-up race. It's completely up to chance. It seems pretty simple on paper when laid out like this, but if you actually sit down and play this, it is crazy deep, with so many things that completely change each round, like knowing and being able to get to certain nooks and crannies to the map, trying to mess up other players, or random events happening. Sometimes the game just pulls and spawns in a random event. This could be anything ranging from a giant pillar full of stat boosts, a giant death bird of destruction, your machine being on a caffeine high, or any other multitude of things. Some of this trash is amazing. It's so fun to just be going about your day and then seeing the random garbage that the game will throw at you. And it's amazing. I love it. There are also 2 super machines you can find by collecting 3 different pieces of them, and they're pretty much automatic win buttons for half of the challenges. There's a high flight and control one, and a high speed and strength one. One of them, the Dragoon, was actually added to Super Smash Bros. As an item, having a similar 3-piece collection process. All these things combine to make one of the most in-depth, fully fledged minigames that I've ever seen in my entire life. It's amazing. I love it. I wish it was like expanded into its own game. It would work so well. Imagine a much larger map and a whole bunch more Kirbys, like 100 person battle royale. Like all the Kirbys are running around finding machines, getting stat boosts, add more things to do, and then at the end, they do a giant minigame that 100 Kirbys can play. It's a Kirby Battle Royale! Kirby 99! Make it happen, Nintendo, right now! Already, this would be an incredible game, but I'm not done. No. On top of 3 fully developed modes that are all incredible, we have one of the greatest bits of single-player content ever made in a party game. We have a checklist. Each mode has one to itself, but they all act the exact same. There are all these squares, and each one is a challenge for you to do. Once you do one, some of them give you nothing, but some of them will give you new sound test options, new machines, or new Kirby colors. Every time you complete a mission, you can see what you need to do to complete the missions that touch it, adding strategy to completing this game. It's amazing. It also rewards people who go out of their way to do missions with more missions, more things to do in the game that they obviously like. It's incredible. Plus, it helps you get better at the game. Some of the missions show you things that you can do to go faster or learn to be better, which really helps with that steep learning curve that I mentioned earlier. The checklist idea is so good that Sakurai reused the idea completely for Kid Icarus Uprising and Smash 4 to equal success. Mario Kart is a more accessible vanilla experience. Team Sonic Racing is a more mechanic-heavy, involved racing game that thinks outside of the box. But Kirby's Air Ride might just be my new go-to mascot racer. It's so good! There's something so endearing about all three modes, even though they are very disconnected. The checklist adds a wealth of single-player content that'll keep me coming back for more for weeks to come. I am genuinely surprised that Nintendo has not tried to remake, remaster, or reimagine this game in any way. It is a perfect example of letting an amazing gaming mind stretch his creativity to make one of the greatest experiences in an entire genre. Thank you all so much for watching. See you all later. Bye.